Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's message Identity Before Authority, the divine process of preparation and transformation. And before I begin this presentation, I do want to thank the one subscriber that subscribed today. I check my YouTube analytics every day and I have achieved the achievement of one subscriber. So, wherever you are, I do appreciate it. You are my first subscriber. But with that out of the way, let's begin. So the core thesis of this message is before God grants new authority, he first establishes a new identity, ensuring the vessel is prepared for the weight of the assignment. This divine pattern is seen in the lives of Saul, who was given a new heart before receiving the kingdom of Israel, and in Samson, whose identity as a Nazirite was established long before he judged Israel. And so when you feel the Lord refining your character, making you sharper, wiser, and more resilient, it is often a signal that God is preparing you for new ground. This profound internal transformation is necessary to weather the storms of battle and effectively execute the responsibilities of the authority that is coming. So we're going to start this off with the pattern of Saul, right? The key point here is that transformation precedes the throne. And in 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 6, the word of the Lord tells us, "Then the Spirit of the Lord will come upon you mightily, and you shall prophesy with them and be changed into another man." And when you actually read more of this chapter, it talks about how people who knew Saul no longer recognized Saul because the Spirit of the Lord had came upon him and he was a different person. He had a new heart. Right, and the context of this is that before Saul was given the kingdom of Israel, before he was chosen to be king, his internal makeup had to change. And God gave him a new heart to match the magnitude of his new office. And the takeaway here is that you cannot carry the weight of a kingdom with the heart of a commoner. Right, before God is going to give you something that is maybe something that you've never experienced before, something that you have no experience in, because mind you, Saul was the very first king of Israel. He didn't have any other kings of an Israelite lineage to learn from or to look at as a role model. And so before the Lord gave him this massive responsibility of king, he had to change him into a different person. The Spirit of the Lord had to come upon him so that he could carry the weight of being a king, because he couldn't enter into that new domain, into that new office with the heart of the old Saul. Next, we're going to look at the pattern of Samson. And the key point here is that consecration precedes power. In Judges chapter 13, verse 5, it reads, "For behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. No razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazirite to God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel." And Samson's identity, or his status as a Nazirite, meaning that he could not drink wine nor could he cut his hair, was established at birth. Okay, and the authority of Samson, his power as a judge, came after his identity was established. Okay, and so the takeaway here is that sometimes your restrictions are often the boundaries of your future authority. God sometimes holds those who he has called to a higher calling to a higher standard. And this standard is often made manifest in your identity. The Lord simply is holding you to a higher level of consecration. You can't do what everyone else does. You cannot engage in the things of this world the way everyone else does, because you've been called to something higher. And so when you realize the Lord is convicting you in your spirit, saying you can't do this, you can't do that, don't look at this as the Lord putting a burden upon you that you can't carry. Oftentimes these restrictions are the boundaries that are going to define the authority that you're eventually going to occupy. Now, the sharpening process here is very important. The word of the Lord tells us in Hebrews chapter 4, verse 12, that the word of the Lord is living and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword. And the refinement process means that God is often going to shape our identity into something sharper, cunning, and wise. The word of the Lord says that we must be as innocent as doves, but as shrewd or as wise as serpents. And oftentimes the way we arrive at this place in our identity where we are innocent as a dove, but as wise as a serpent, is by being refined by the word of the Lord. And the purpose here is to create a character that is resilient enough to weather the storm of battle. John 16:33 tells us, this is Jesus saying, that we will face trials and tribulations in this life, but that we should be of good cheer because he has overcome the world. And so oftentimes the word of the Lord has to refine us. It has to make us sharp. It has to make us wise, because we are going to face trials and tribulations in this world. And the result, when this refinement process really begins to take place in a person's life, is a persona or a newfound identity that is capable of executing the specific duties of their newfound office. And this is why the word of the Lord tells us, do not reject the chastening of the Lord. Do not reject the word of the Lord, because oftentimes the trials and tribulations, even the restrictions that God imposes upon us, are actually to our betterment. They are to our refinement, and it's actually making us a more capable individual to carry out the calling that the Lord has given us. And something I also want to address is recognizing the shift. Right? The main message here is that if you feel the Lord changing you, he's preparing new ground. You have to be aware of that, right? Because the word of the Lord says that one day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as a day unto the Lord. And so sometimes the Lord can radically change you in a way that can take a very short amount of time, where you may have thought it would have taken you years to reach this newfound level of maturity, when it took the Lord a few hours or a few minutes. And the signal here is noticing changes in your desires, boundaries, and perspective. If you're realizing that the Lord is changing your heart, and the things that used to entice you no longer entice you, the things that used to interest you no longer interest you, you're developing healthier boundaries with people, you're seeing things from a holier and a more grace-filled perspective, this is a major sign that the Lord is beginning to change your identity, because he's preparing you for newfound authority. And the promise here is that identity shifts are the pregame for new territory, right? Before Jesus Christ called his disciples and said, "Follow me," that preceded the authority that they were given to trample upon serpents and scorpions. He first established them as his followers, his friends. And then it was after this identity that they had all been collectively gathered and were recognized as the disciples of Jesus Christ, that this authority was given unto them. And so oftentimes when the Lord is preparing us for newfound territory, newfound identity in him, which precedes the authority, we're going to notice these changes in our desires, these changes in our boundaries, and these changes in our perspectives, and ultimately a change in our heart and in our spirit. And the call here is to embrace the profound shaping of the Lord. It is the prerequisite for the authority you seek. This is why the Lord tells us to walk by faith and not by sight, because sometimes the Lord is going to take you and he's going to mold you like Play-Doh, and you do not know what the finished product will be, but you have to trust in the Lord and lean not on your own understanding, because that refinement process, that molding and sculpting process, is the Lord making you into a perfect image of Christ that can carry out the assignment that the Lord has given for you.